Welcome to this episode of The Marketing Companion, brought to you by G-Shift and Voices Heard Media. Here are your hosts, Mark Schaefer and Tom Webster.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of The Marketing Companion, broadcasting high atop our studios at beautiful Rockefeller Center in New York City. This is Mark Schaefer, and I don't have my co-host with me today as we sit here on the brink of our third year of podcasting. This is the first time that we have been interrupted with our schedule. Tom had something unavoidable, and I'm absolutely delighted to let you know that I have someone who's on the line with me today, a surprise guest who is actually, well, I think, this is Jay Baer on the line with me today. So everyone, applaud for Jay. But Jay, I've never really done a marketing companion without Tom, and I'm a little nervous about this. So I thought what I would do is I'd like to put you through my standard co-host interview process to make sure that you have all the qualifications necessary to be the co-host for the Marketing Companion for today. Is that all right?
I will do my best. This is the Marketing New Companion episode. I think our friend Tom Webster is very familiar of the story of Wally Pipp and Lou Gehrig. We'll see how that plays out. I am not nearly as erudite as Tom is. I'm not a Yankee from Maine, nor do I have a background in radio, although a little bit of background in radio. So I will do my best to fill his very large and capable shoes. And you know what they say about people with big feet, so we'll do our best.
Okay. Well, so first, I'm just going to go through a few qualifications here. So do you do celebrity impersonations?
That is one of the few things I don't do. I apologize to all the listeners of the Marketing Companion, but I do not do voices.
Oh, boy. Okay. Well, that's strike one.
Yeah, we're in trouble already.
Yeah, we're in trouble already. All right, so you've already thrown out this word erudite. Do you promise to not keep using words that I don't understand on this podcast?
I'm not fully certain of the depth of your vocabulary mastery, so I'm going to do my best to bring it down to, my mom has like 37 master's degrees in English, so while I am not smart the way Tom is smart, I am smart by osmosis. So I will do my best to keep it at an achievable level.
All right, just tone it down. All right. Then, is your wife named Tamsin?
My wife is not named Tamsin. My wife is named Allison. However, my wife and Tamsin don't look exactly alike, but certainly more so than if you just took two people from random. So they are of similar type, that is for sure.
All right, I'll take that. I'll take that as an acceptable answer because I've never had a co-host that didn't have a wife named Tamsin. So the final question is...
Since Tamsin is not a very common name, you have a very small pool of potential co-hosts, if that is the same.
I prefer to think of it as elite. So the final question is, who is your favorite marketing blogger?
Mark Schaefer. That's what my agent told me to say at this part, right? My agent said, make sure when he asks you who your favorite marketing blogger is, you say Mark Schaefer.
All right. Well, I mean, I like the pregnant pause.
I had to check my notes.
Very well done. Very well done. Well, Jay, I know everybody that has you in a podcast, they start out by saying, I'm really excited to have Jay Baer with me today. But
yet nobody's actually excited. That's the thing about it.
But I really am. I really am because you and I have been friends for a long time, and I can remember the first time we met was in Indiana. It was in Bloomington before you had moved there, and you came up to do. Wasn't it in Bloomington? Yeah, we met at some burger bar or something in Bloomington.
I think it was in Indianapolis, but yeah, 6-1, absolutely.
Yeah. Anyway, it was so the first time, and I remember, I was just getting started in the field, and you walked in. I thought, oh man, it's so amazing to meet with you because I really looked up to the things that you were doing, and I still do. I still tell everybody you are my favorite content creator out there, and I've been dying to talk to you about about what you've been doing and where content is going on the web. Now, a couple years ago, I would have introduced you as a blogger. I'm not sure you're even really a blogger anymore. You are a media company. You're covering a lot of different bases. And I think this is so fascinating. You're really leading the way in many respects. At the end of the year, Tom and I did a podcast and we talked about what's coming down the road. And one of the things I predicted was that because of this idea of content shock and the information density, that I would be looking for innovations in content as a new way to cut through, as a new way to stand out. And I've been watching you and some of the interesting things that you're doing. And so I think that's a great topic for us today. So let's discuss some of the things that you're doing. So I'm going to talk about the things I know you're doing, and maybe there's a few things that you've got in the works that we can discuss as well. So the first innovation that I saw you really begin to play with is this rapid, consistent, short form video. So talk a little bit about your J Today series, and I know you've pivoted on that a little bit. So tell us a little bit about this innovation. What was the idea behind it, and what do you hope it will achieve?
Well, I think certainly video continues to take a larger and larger share of the overall content ecosystem. There's a number of reasons for that. One, video is much easier to produce than it ever has been. But I think the other reason is that we can now access streaming video all the time. It wasn't that long ago that you could get a video on your laptop, but your actual cell phone wasn't fast enough to deliver streaming video unless you were connected to Wi-Fi. But with the advent and propagation of 4G and LTE speeds in most places, at least in the US, it's made a scenario where you can watch video anytime you want. And so every time I check the stats and say, well, surely the consumption of online video hasn't increased yet again, it, of course, has increased yet again. And the reality is that, and this breaks my heart as an author, and probably yours too, the reality is that Johnny don't read. Like people don't want to read anymore. It's too much work. It's easier to just watch the video. And I have an interesting sort of anthropological example here. My son is 13, turns 14 here in a couple of weeks, and he's a big sports fan like I am. And often, many times each month, he and I will be at the breakfast counter having a bowl of cereal or what have you. He's on his phone or his iPad. I'm on my phone or my iPad. We're both looking at ESPN. In many cases, I'll glance over and he will be on the exact same article that I'm on, except that he is watching the video and I am reading the text.
Yeah.
And that happens all the time, right? That cohort is like, why would I read if given the choice to not read? And so you start playing that string out, and all of a sudden you get to a point where it's video first, second, and third, and text fourth. And so we wanted to get ahead of that trend a little bit. And certainly you wrote a great post recently about how Facebook's newsfeed algorithm is sort of playing right into that concept of video being a dominant form of content archetype.
Absolutely. I'm still an old timer. When I go to ESPN and I see the option to watch the video or read, I'm afraid to click the video because I'm afraid I can't get back to the story.
I never watch it. Never.
I always
never
read.
do.
I always read. I guess that's going to be my niche, Jay, is that I guess I'll be producing content for the people who do read.
Well, I mean, there's certainly
could be a diminishing audience.
It could be, but there's certainly a business there. I mean, it's interesting. You end up with this barbell concept, right, where a big portion of content will be short form, sort of flotsam and jetsam, mostly multimedia. And then you'll have on the fully opposite spectrum, kind of long form, in-depth, primarily written. That's why magazines like The Atlantic are doing great. And magazines that are basically short form magazines are not doing great because you can get it better online in video.
Yeah. Now, tell us a little bit about your process. When you started out doing these videos, I thought, oh my gosh, how is he going to keep up this pace? I think, if I remember correctly, the original idea or the announcement was you're going to do these maybe like 4 or 5 times a week. And I mean, and the thing is, the videos that you do are just so consistently good and interesting and insightful. And the other thing I love about that is that it's no holds barred. I mean, you are not politically correct. You say what you think. And so tell me a little bit about your process. How do you do this consistently? What shortcuts do you have? And tell me about, I think you pivoted a little bit as far as the frequency of these things.
Yeah, the Jay Today show is now we're at episode, I don't know, almost 200.
Wow.
And we've been doing it for just over a year, maybe 14 months. And so the typical cadence now is 3 episodes per week.
Yeah.
We decided that made the most sense. I could do with them more frequently, certainly, but every time you make a video, you need to promote it and you need to talk about it in social and post it on Facebook and Twitter and LinkedIn. And that combined with all the other things that we're doing. I mean, we're posting 10 blog posts a week now at Convince and Convert, and we have 6 or 7 podcasts now. So it was more having enough promotional headroom to do 5 a week was just not there. It was just getting annoying. So we found that 3 weeks a nice balance of not making it too difficult for me and my team. So the process is really great now. It took a while to kind of iron out the kinks so that it is viable to do it on the road, in a hotel, on a plane, etc. So I shoot them all on my iPhone. So I just use the regular iPhone video camera. I've got a small tripod, a small external microphone by the same guys that make the Yeti microphone that many podcasters use.
Is it one of the little cubes that just kind of sits on the end of the thing? Or does it actually?
It sits on the end. It sits on the end, but it's even smaller. It's flat. It's the same. It's the same thickness as the phone itself.
Yeah.
And it plugs into the end. It's called the Mikey. And so I use that, and I turn it on and record the show. Every episode is 3 minutes. That's the promise. It's a piece of my mind. 3 minutes at a time is the slogan of the show. I take the finished video, upload it to Candidio, which is one of our sponsors of the show. They're a video editing platform. Based in Indianapolis, actually, but it's all web-based. So you upload the video and you tell them, here's what I want to do. Their team takes it, makes it sound a little better, makes it look a little better, drops in our pre-recorded intro, drops in some logos for other sponsors, annotations, things like that. And then they spit it back to me the next day. And then our team puts it on YouTube, Facebook, iTunes as a video podcast, iTunes as an audio podcast, on our website. And that's sort of the baseline version of it. And then we transcribe each episode and take the written version. We tweak it up a little bit, take the written version and turn it into a written blog post on Convince and Convert. We also put them on LinkedIn and Medium. So each 3-minute video becomes as many as 8 or 9 pieces of content.
Well, there's a couple of really great lessons there, because I know a lot of people are really interested in this. And number one is how you outsource the tech stuff. And this is something certainly that I emphasize with everyone that follows me. I've talked about it in my books, that to really win in business today, you have to stay really, really focused on what is bringing in the revenue and what's connecting. And so for me, it's basically the 3 C's. It's clients, college classes, and content. And if it's not one of those 3 things, I find someone else to do it. So I really like what you're doing here as far as just, hey, you just focus on the ideas and the content, and then you send it to somebody else. I'm sure the transcription and publishing on LinkedIn, you're probably, I guess you got Jess or someone helping you with that, right?
Yeah, somebody on our team does that. The only part of that show that I do, literally, the only thing I do is turn on the phone and talk into it, and then upload it to Candidio. So every episode literally takes me probably 8 or 9 minutes to record it, and I'm done.
There you go. That, ladies and gentlemen, is the way to do it. And the other big lesson here is how you're repurposing the content. I mean, you are the king of repurposing, and you really squeeze so much. I mean, your time is valuable, and you're squeezing so much value out of that 8 or 9 minutes that you're spending recording that video. So I think that's absolutely fantastic, and really a model of how we need to do this today.
Thanks. One of the things that I've discovered through the J Today process is that we initially were really concerned that there would be a lot of audience overlap, that people would say, well, I already saw the video on Facebook, so now, wait, this is the same thing on your blog? Or wait a second, didn't you already talk about this as a LinkedIn post? Or wait, didn't I already read this on Medium? That there would be a lot of that, and there has been none of that at all.
Yeah.
And it really underscores for me the fact that as we get more and more social community options and more places to spend our time online, that ultimately people, unless they're doing this for a living, pretty much pick a horse and ride it, right? You know, you're on Facebook with a dabble in Twitter, or you're on Instagram with a dabble in Snapchat, or you read Medium, and that's the only kind of thing like that you read. And so this belief system that we originally had that individual members of our tribe would be seeing the same content in a bunch of different places and that would annoy them simply hasn't proven to be true.
Yeah, I find the same thing. And I had the same concern as you because I was using my blog as really a research channel for my book. I would have an idea that I thought was solid, but I wanted to test it out. And I wanted to see what other people would think about it, and maybe even their ideas would make it into the book. So I use it extensively as kind of a research channel to float ideas, and even some of the same people that commented on the post came back and said, "Oh, that was my favorite part of the book." So that's it's
amazing.
really now. You mentioned that you've got 6 or 7 podcasts. I saw 5 on your site. So talk a little bit about this is something new for you. This has all kind of exploded for you in the last 6 months. You started with, I guess, the Social Pros maybe was your first podcast, and now you're becoming this sort of podcast consortium. So talk a little bit about why you're doing it, how you're doing it, and then the monetization strategy behind this.
Well, like your regular companion, I'm very bullish on the future of audio learning and podcasting in general. It's the only type of learning that you can truly do in a multitasking environment. You can credibly listen to a show like this one while you're mowing the grass or shoveling snow or working out or driving, and you simply can't do that with video. You can't do it with a blog post. You can't do it with an ebook. You can't do it with a regular book unless it's on audio. So podcasting has a technical operational advantage in a very, very busy world. And I don't think anybody's getting less busy. So very bullish on podcasting as a medium, which is why the other thing we started last year was marketingpodcast.com, which is the only search engine for marketing podcasts in the world. We now have nearly 700 shows in the database. We wrote a custom algorithm to rank and score podcasts. We do weekly reviews the same way you would have album reviews in a publication like Spin or a website like Pitchfork. And so we've invested an enormous amount of resources to sort of chronicle the rise of marketing podcasts, and it's worked out great. In addition, as you say, we've also at Convince and Convert Media decided to produce a number of our own shows. So yes, Social Pros was the first podcast, and I've been doing Social Pros now for 4.5 years, a long time. A long time. And it's still our flagship show, gets lots and lots of downloads and really is a place where big companies can come and talk about what they're doing day to day in social media. I should say, it's apropos of today's episode of The Marketing Companion, I have a new co-host on the show. My long-term co-host, Jeff Roars, has recently left Salesforce Marketing Cloud and just got hired as the CMO of Yext, which is really exciting. So Adam Brown, who's the executive social strategist for Salesforce, joins Social Pro starting next week. So I'll have a new companion.
Awesome.
So that's pretty exciting.
Well, Jeff he was a great witty foil to you in your podcast. So we'll miss him and look forward to Adam.
Yeah. So we've got a bunch of new shows now. We have five launched, and 2 more coming, 2 more in production. So we have Social Pros, we have Content Pros, which is the same idea for the content marketing space, which is hosted now by Chris Moody from Oracle and Randy Frisch from Uberflip. We have the Convince and Convert podcast, where you talked about repurposing, where we take the 2 or 3 best blog posts each week of the 10 that we write, and we have professional voice talent record them as podcast episodes. So you can get the blog as a podcast as well. That works well. We have Jay Today, of course. We just launched 2 days ago a brand new show, which is just on fire, called The Business of Story, which is all about how you can apply Hollywood storytelling principles to your business. And it's been as high as number 5 in iTunes for all of the business category, which is a really great launch. Really excited about that show, and 2 more in production, including a show with our mutual friend Ian Cleary. We're going to be doing a podcast with him as well.
Well, that's awesome. So, So the concepts for the shows, are you the one kind of coming up with the concepts for the show and then, kind of producing them?
Yes, I come up with the concepts of the shows and source the talent and figure out who the right co-hosts are going to be. And then my team at Convince and Convert Media actually does the day-to-day show production. So get the guests organized, make sure the hosts show up, do the production of the individual episodes, the editing, the graphic design, the promotion, the advertising, the blog posts. So our premise with our hosts who don't work for us is that you just got to show up and do a great show, and we'll take care of the rest of it.
Yeah. Now, are you able to then, or is the idea that once you have this this group of shows that you can offer packages to sponsors? Is that the long-term view of it?
We may do that at some point. All of the shows that we have are sponsored. We don't launch them until we have sponsors locked in. Right. We don't record the first show until the show is profitable. So we already have sponsor relationships from the get-go. We sell them in. It's almost like previews, or the way that television works, the upfronts, where we go to sponsors and say, our idea is to create a show like this featuring this talent. Would you like to be a sponsor of it and sign on from the beginning? And so once we have sponsors in, then we actually move into production phase and create a pilot, so to speak. So there certainly is an opportunity over the long haul to say, look, if you want to sponsor multiple shows and go horizontally instead of vertically, we can absolutely do that. We haven't made that move yet because sponsors are currently signing on for individual shows as opposed to a collection of shows. But that's certainly something we've considered.
Now let's move on to the new direction that you've taken with the RSS feed I get from you every day, which is the new idea around curating content. So talk a little bit about this move and that innovation in your content strategy.
Yeah, thanks very much. This has been a big one for us.
It really is.
We have sent an email to people initially weekly and then 3 times a week and then daily. But we've been in the email quote unquote business for 8 years, something like that, 7 years. And like many people, we were in a place where we were sending out a daily email with a collection of, hey, here's what's going on the interwebs that we think you should pay attention to. And I think we did a fairly good job of curating and had nice things in there, but it wasn't unusual or particularly noteworthy. There's lots and lots and lots and lots of people out there doing email like that.
Yeah.
Here's what's going on today. And so in our strategic planning session in January, I said, look, we can be better than this. We can be different than this. Let's eat our own dog food metaphorically and say, okay, if we were subscribing to an email, what would we really want to see? And so we decided to chuck the whole thing and start over. And so we launched a couple of months ago a brand new product called Definitive. And the reason it's called Definitive is that each day, instead of saying, here's what's happening today, we actually take a topic and we give you 3 links that we feel are the definitive online resources about that topic. We also have the list segmented so that each day of the week covers a different type of topic. So, for example, Mondays are social media. Tuesdays is content marketing. Wednesdays is digital marketing, so things that are not content or social, so email, analytics, landing page optimization, etc. And then Thursday, we recap what's happening in our world on our blog. And so you know that every Monday, you're going to get a topic from us about social media. It might be how businesses can advertise in Snapchat. It might be the best way to crop photos on Instagram. And our team uses a lot of research tools to figure out what are the 3 very best things ever published on that topic. And then what I think is interesting about it, although we probably don't emphasize it enough in the email itself, is that we then give you access, as a subscriber, you have access to the archives. So if today you don't need to know about business use of Snapchat, but 2 months later you do, you can click on the archive and go to our website where we have all of those links categorized and sorted. So you can say, what were they saying about Snapchat? I remember they talked about that at some point. And so it's almost intended to be a living library of the best of digital marketing.
Well, that's an awesome idea because, Jay, what I've found myself doing is I'll get one of your definitive emails and it'll be on a topic that I get a lot of questions about from customers. I thought, I better save that. I might need that as a reference tool in the future. So really, it's a great resource, and I'll provide links to all these properties that we've talked about in the show notes. So let's talk.
It was really scary. It was really. I got to tell you though.
Really?
I mean,
it's so intuitive.
It was intuitive to me, and I'm glad it's intuitive to you. But the reality is, literally nobody does that or has done that, as far as we know. And so to say, hey, let's take an existing email product that generates significant sponsorship revenue, and let's start over. It was scary, and I'm so thankful that we trusted our instincts. The feedback that we've gotten anecdotally from our subscribers has been really, really strong. The numbers are way up in terms of open rates and click-through rates, and list churn is way down, and all those things. So it's been a real success. But man, it was scary.
Yeah. So what else is scary? What's coming down the road? And again, I mean, congratulations on all the ways that you've innovated in ways to cut through the clutter and push the boundaries. So what's coming down next? I mean, we know some of these general trends about video. But I mean, we kind of consume video much the same way that we did in the 60s. It's a passive thing. You click a button and we view it. And I mean, really, a podcast is kind of like on-demand radio. And it is on-demand radio. And we kind of consume it the same way. So what's coming down the line? What are some things that maybe you're excited about? What's going to be the next scary thing?
Well, I think the next scary thing is ironically something you just talked about recently with great elan, which is...
Stop it. Stop using those words. That was part of the freaking agreement. Now,
it was filled with panache. I think this concept of... Look, so, and you said at the outset, right, you would have originally described me as a blogger, and I don't shirk from that label.
Yeah.
Certainly the blog at Convince and Convert, which is really more of a digital magazine now because it's not really... me. I mean, I write some things there, but it's not really Jay's blog in any way, shape, or form. But this concept that I think lots of people are at right now, which is you have the blog, and the blog is the spine, the nerve center of your media properties, and then you have all these sort of satellites around there, whether it's Jay Today or podcasts, et cetera, et cetera. Well, what happens when you've got to totally change the nerve center? And you wrote about it recently that, hey, maybe instead of writing a blog, we should just be posting content natively to Facebook, natively to LinkedIn, natively to Medium. Maybe the blog isn't the backstop of what you know. It's just another satellite. And so to kind of rewind the clock into early days of social media discussion, the concept of home base and outpost, where the blog was always the home base.
Yeah.
What happens when you get to the point where you don't have a home base, where everything is deconstructed like a fancy Caesar salad? And that's certainly... Even though our blog is doing great and yours is as well, and many are, that's what I'm thinking about is what's around that bend. Yeah. What happens if we don't have a blog?
That's exactly.
How do we monetize? Like what does that look like?
Yeah, that's exactly what I've been thinking about. What happens when there is no spine? And I see that happening. It's happening now. The other thing that was quite I mentioned this on another podcast, previous episode, that was quite illuminating to me when I was at South by Southwest this year. Every year, people stop me and they say, "Oh, I love your blog. I'm a big fan." This year, for the first time, people stopped me and they said, "I love your podcast." Didn't even mention the blog. So it started me thinking about, well, what is the spine? What is the home base? Where are people going? Do you have multiple spines? Is it a hub and spoke, or is it just spokes? I'll
tell you how we think about that, which is that we used to think of it as a circle, right? And you've got the hub and the spoke, right? Yeah. But now I've discovered, and I've experienced the exact same thing that you've experienced, where people who are sort of in the know, quote unquote, will say, "Hey, we'd love to get your email," or whatever. But what people come up to me and tell me about all the time is they either love the J Today videos or they love the Social Pros podcast. Yeah. Partially, I think that audio and video are just visceral in a way that writing simply isn't, right? We're talking into your head. I'm talking into your head right now. But So what I started to think about is maybe this is a classic funnel, right? Where the blog is really top of the funnel, because a lot of people come to our blog from Google, and yours as well, or from social, and they might not know me, but they saw a link from somebody else. And so what we've kind of come to understand is that the blog is kind of the first touch, top of the funnel. Middle of the funnel is email, and then bottom of the funnel is audio and video. And so we're starting to think of it the same way that we would think of a conversion funnel in a B2B marketing context. And that has given me a lot of clarity around what we're doing and why we're doing it and for whom we're doing it, and the relationship between these media properties.
The interesting thing is that, you and I have been around a long time. We've been marketing strategists for a long time. And the thing that's transformational here is that the ways that the channels are adjusting are dictating our strategies. It's never been that way. We've got products, we've got messages, we've got customers, we do research, and we create strategies because these channels, a television program, a magazine, a newspaper, they're predictable. They can give you analytics on the reach and the demographics. But now the strategy is almost being dictated in many ways by the evolution of these channels. It's a new way of thinking. It's a new liquidity, really, that's being introduced into strategy development.
I tell you, that is one of the smartest observations I've ever heard you make, and that's a long list to start with. Mm-hmm. I could not agree more. I think the BuzzFeed headline would be, is strategy dead? Is strategy dead? Because it, can you have a strategy? Yeah. Can you truly be strategic if you're always in reactive mode? And we see this every day, right? We've got all these clients, tons of corporate clients, and lots of really big companies, and then we still support a lot of agencies as well. And my team and I are constantly sending emails to clients to say, well, I know what we told you last month was this, but now we're going to tell you something different. Yep. And it's not because our strategic thrust has changed. It's because where that strategy is deployed has changed, and there's nothing we can do about that. So, if you're constantly sort of in operations tactics mode, what is the role of strategy?
Yeah. Well, Jay, this has been an awesome conversation, and we could keep on going. But my promise to our wonderful listeners is that we will cover these topics.
Is that Tom Webster will never be back on the show? Was that the promise?
No. Tom will be back.
It's a different promise.
Next time. No. But anyways, thank you so very much. And I need to acknowledge our wonderful sponsors, Voices Heard Media. Just incredibly forward-thinking people. If you need to look at ways to scale your social through new ways to engage with your customers, please check out Voices Heard Media and G-Shift. These are people that will help get all of your different media properties on a one dashboard wherever they might be. They also have amazing opportunities to white label some of their dashboards if you're working for an agency. So check out our friends at G-Shift. Jay, thank you so much for being here with us today. Tell us a little bit about where people can best find you on the web.
My friend, it was truly my pleasure. Anytime Tom can't make it, you can count me in to pinch hit. I loved every minute of it. It's always great to have a chance to speak with you. Best place to find me, just go to convinceandconvert.com. You can find all of our stuff there, blog, podcast, videos, etc.
Jay, thanks so much. And everyone, thanks for listening. We'll see you next time.